The first person who saw Chinedu after the burial was a keke rider named Emeka. He never told anyone what truly disturbed him about that night. Not the red school uniform soaked through with rain. Not the bare feet on the wet asphalt. Not even the mud, dark and specific, still packed under the boy's fingernails. What disturbed him was the expression. Because Chinedu did not look like a ghost. He looked like a child who had been somewhere terrible and was not yet sure he had fully escaped. But to understand what happened to Chinedu, you have to understand Ajegunle first. Ajegunle is the kind of place Lagos forgets on purpose. Streets that flood every rainy season. Generators running all night because NEPA never remembered this part of the map. Children who learned to be small, so they did not take up too much space in rooms that already had too many people. Okafors lived in one room on the second floor of a compound on Boundary Road. 5 of them. His mother, Ngozi, his father, Sunday, his 2 older sisters, and Chinedu, the last born, the gap-toothed one, the boy who made the room feel less small somehow. He was 8 years old and already understood poverty the way children who grew up inside it do. Not as a concept, but as a texture. The specific weight of a mattress shared by 3 people. The sound his mother made in the kitchen when the pot was nearly empty. The way his father sat in the plastic chair by the window on evenings when the bus depot did not pay. But Chinedu was not a sad child. That was the thing about him. He collected small things. A marble he found near the motor park. A pen that still had ink. A photograph of the whole family taken outside a church during someone's Thanksgiving. The only photograph they owned. He kept them in a tin under the mattress like treasure. He greeted every neighbor by name. He laughed easily and often. A big laugh, too large for his body. The kind that made adults smile without meaning to. And every Tuesday after school, he walked home along the canal road because he liked watching the egrets that gathered there in the afternoon light. That was how they got him. On a Tuesday, on the canal road, his father was already there. Ngozi always said she knew something was wrong before anyone told her. She felt it the way you feel weather changing, in the body first before the evidence arrives. By 6 o'clock, she was at the door. By 8, she was in the street. By midnight, she was barefoot, which she did not notice until much later, calling his name into drains and behind generators and into the gaps between buildings where children sometimes hid. Sunday helped search. He was very helpful about it. That would later become the thing she could not stop thinking about. How helpful he had been. How he held her when she cried. How he said, "We will find him, Nne. We will find him." The search lasted 4 days. On the 5th morning, a fisherman pulled something from the canal behind the warehouse on Kirikiri Road. The body was badly decomposed, swollen with water. The face, the coroner said this gently, professionally, was not easily identifiable. But the red school uniform was there. St. Augustine, the name printed on the breast pocket. The sandals with the broken left buckle that Ngozi had been meaning to replace for 2 months. And the bracelet, cheap thread and 2 blue beads that she had tied on his wrist herself on the morning of his last birthday. She did not remember falling. She was told afterwards that she fell. The burial happened on a Thursday. The pastor said the things pastors say. Neighbors brought rice and fried plantain. Women cried in the way of women who have attended enough funerals to know the rhythms. And right before they sealed the coffin, Ngozi grabbed the coffin edge and screamed that he was breathing. She screamed it twice, 3 times. People held her arms gently. The pastor prayed louder. Sunday guided her away, his hand firm and steady on her back. And the coffin was sealed. What nobody understood then was that Ngozi was right. He could hear everything. That was the first thing Chinedu would tell her weeks later in the dark of their room while his sister slept. his voice careful and slow, like he was describing a place he was not sure he had fully left. He could hear everything, he said, but he could not move. Not his fingers, not his eyes, not even his chest. Breathing became something that happened to him rather than something he did. He heard men's voices outside the warehouse. He heard his father's voice saying yes. He heard money, the specific sound of notes being counted. He heard himself being carried. He heard his mother scream at the canal and understood, in the dim, paralyzed space behind his eyes, that the thing in the water was not him, could not be him, but that nobody was going to know that. He heard the pastor's prayer. He heard his mother at the coffin edge and tried with everything in him to make a sound, any sound, a breath, a cry, a knock against the wood. Nothing came. Then darkness, then the sound of sand. The rain saved him. He would spend the rest of his life not knowing how to feel about rain. It came hard that night, the way Lagos rain arrives, not gradually, but all at once, like a decision. The cemetery on Ojo Road was old and poorly maintained, the soil loose, the drainage non-existent. By 2 a.m, the graves nearest the far wall were flooded to the lid. The coffin, cheap wood, assembled quickly, cracked along the bottom seam. Air entered first, then water, and somewhere in the mix of cold and wet and new oxygen, Chinedu's fingers moved. He told his mother he cried for a long time before he understood he was actually free to cry. He told her the hardest part was not the dark. The hardest part was knowing, absolutely knowing, that the people above the ground thought he was already finished, that they had all gone home, that no one was coming. He climbed out himself. 8 years old. He climbed out of a cracked coffin, out of a flooded grave, in a cemetery in the middle of Lagos rain, and he stood in the mud among the headstones and looked up at the black sky pouring water down on him. And then he started walking, because he knew the way home. He had always known the way home. Emeka the keke rider found him on the Ojo Road at 2:13 in the morning. The boy was walking steadily, not running, not wandering, walking. Emeka stopped and leaned out. "Oga Pikin, wetin happen? Where your people go?" Chinedu looked at him. "Please," he said quietly, "don't let them carry me again." Emeka drove him to the nearest police post and then went home and sat in the dark for a while. He told his wife he had nearly hit a child on the road. He did not mention the mud under the nails for a long time. Some things you hold before you can say them out loud. Ngozi was lying on the floor when the knock came. Not sleeping. She had not slept properly in 8 days, just lying there in the way of people who have run out of positions for grief. 3 knocks. She thought, rats, generator, somebody's pipe. Then, Mama. 1 word. She knew the voice before her mind had processed the word. Every mother knows. It is not mystical. It is just the specific frequency of a child's voice that has been inside your body, that you have listened to over fevers and nightmares and ordinary mornings. You know it the way you know your own heartbeat. She opened the door, and there he was, wet through, muddy, smaller somehow than she remembered, alive. The compound woke immediately. It always does in Ajegunle. Walls are thin, sound travels, and extraordinary things summon people out of sleep without explanation. Neighbors gathered. Some prayed. One woman fainted and was revived with water. Through all of it, Ngozi held her son and did not let go for a very long time. And through all of it, Sunday stood apart. Not frozen with relief, not broken with gratitude, just watching. His face was the face of a man doing very fast mathematics. Ngozi noticed this, the way she had noticed the burial clothes and the canal bracelet and the sound of her husband's voice saying, "We will find him," not in the moment, but stored away for later, when she would have the room and the stillness to understand what she had been looking at. The story came out slowly, in pieces, overnight. Chinedu would not sleep alone. He would not enter rooms where the light switch was on the outside. Anytime Sunday came near him, his breathing changed, fast and shallow, like a small animal that has learned to recognize a specific danger. At first, Ngozi explained this as trauma, as the reasonable response of a child who had been through something unreasonable. But one night, Chinedu woke screaming the same sentence he had been screaming for a week. "Please don't bury me again." And Ngozi held him and asked quietly, "What happened?" The boy told her. The walk along the canal road, his father waiting there, the men in the warehouse, one in white, one with a black bag, running, and then the needle, and then nothing. And then everything but worse, everything without the ability to stop it. He told her about lying paralyzed while the world performed his death around him. He told her about the sand. He told her the detail that made her stop breathing for a moment. The detail about the money being counted, the sound of it, the specific number of notes. A number she had no way of knowing was accurate until the police later confirmed the amount found in the neighbor's testimony. A number only someone in that room could have known. Sunday was gone by morning. He understood, watching his son stand alive in the compound doorway, that the mathematics had shifted entirely. He ran. He was found 11 days later in an unfinished building in Ikorodu. No wounds on the body. The neighbors said they heard a man's voice in there for 2 nights, not talking to anyone, just repeating something. The officer who wrote the report noted it as possible cardiac event, cause undetermined. The neighbors remembered the words differently, but they all agreed on the pattern. 3 words, over and over. He came back. The police investigation uncovered the ordinary shape of the horror underneath. Gambling debts to men who did not accept delays, an introduction made through someone at the depot, a transaction that Sunday perhaps told himself was one thing, while knowing, in the part of himself he could not look at directly, that it was another. The body from the canal was never conclusively identified. The case file remained open. These things happen in cities that are too large and too loud and too busy to notice everything. Chinedu did not recover quickly. That is the honest truth of it, and it deserves to be said plainly. He was afraid of the dark for years. He would not go into storerooms or closets or any space without a visible exit. He had nightmares that were not quite nightmares, more like returns, his mother said, like he went back there in his sleep and had to climb out again. But he was also still the boy who collected small things. He still had the marble. The photograph, the family one, taken outside the church. He removed from the tin one evening and looked at it for a long time. His father's face was in it, smiling, his hand on Chinedu's shoulder. He put it back. He did not scratch anything out. He just put it back. His mother asked him once, years later, if he hated his father. He thought about it, the way he had learned to think, carefully, without rushing. I don't know what he was. I think he was scared and he made the worst choice a person can make. I think he knew it was wrong while he was doing it. He paused. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. Ngozi did not have an answer. She thought that was probably the most honest thing anyone had ever said about Sunday Okafor. They left Ajegunle the following year. A church in Surulere helped with rent. The girls changed schools. Ngozi learned to do something new and became very good at it. Chinedu grew. He became a young man who was quieter than he used to be, but not silent, who laughed less easily but more meaningfully, who noticed small things, the way light hit dirty water, the sound of egrets near canals, the particular weight of a room with too many people in it, and wrote them down in notebooks he kept in a box under his bed. Not treasure exactly, evidence. Evidence that he had been here, that he had seen these things, that he had come back and kept coming back every morning from every dark place sleep sometimes took him. On the last page of his first notebook, in the handwriting of a 10-year-old still learning to hold a pen steadily, he had written one sentence.
Not for anyone else, just for himself. I climbed out. There are still people in Ajegunle who tell the story when the rain comes hard at night. Some of them add things: a ghost near the cemetery road, strange lights, a child's footprints appearing in mud that nobody made. Stories do that. They reach for the supernatural because sometimes the human explanation is too heavy to carry plainly. But the true version needs nothing added to it. An 8-year-old boy was put in the ground by someone who should have been the last person in the world capable of it. He woke up in the dark. He found air. He found a crack. He climbed. He walked home in the rain because he knew the way. He knocked 3 times. He said, "Mama," and the door opened. That is the whole story. And it is enough. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories like this one and leave a comment. We read every single one.